for me? Anyone can hear me there? Okay. This is Abdul belonging from stage 6. Before I start, I would like to assume the presence of the professional people, and I shall accordingly eliminate the unnecessary details in the topic of financial risk management. Beginning my presentation begins with two questions. Do you think risk is bad? Do you think that risk is a dirty four-letter word that everyone thinks? Do you think there's anything like that? Well, I think that majority among you, if not all, consider that risk is something bad. We have a behavior like we say, risk is something bad, I'm not going to take the risk. This is what is inside ourselves. This is the general perception into our minds. Why I'm defining the risk by telling you that I'm not going to elaborate the unnecessary details, why I am hanging out with the risk word. The reason is that I want to cut the crap. I want to tell you that there's something new with the risk definition. When we talk about the risk has the two sides. The one is the bright side and the other is the dark side. The general risk management considers the dark side, which is the downside risk. For example, when we invest in the stocks of any corporation, we are concerned with the risk which might go up. Remember, risk exists whenever the actual outcome is different from the expected outcome. Now, considering this particular definition of the risk, if I invest in any stock, the price, and I can gain more than I expect, I can lose also. So I want to say this is what I expect. I might go here and I might go there. So there is a both way possibility. There is a downside risk also, and there is an upside risk also. So we always talk about the downside risk. This is what I want to contradict on. And moving on to the next slide. Now this is the roadmap, the brief walkthrough of my presentation. There are 4 blocks in my whole presentation besides that, and the first one is what, why, how, and who. And when I talk about who, I'll talk about you, the future of this economy, the management accountants. Now, starting with the first question, what is FRM or what is financial risk management? Like the general definition of any risk management is that we first identify, then we analyze, and then we treat the risk. But here we analyze, identify, and treat the financial risks that we face. And financial risk exists whenever the company or any sort of undertaking uses the leverage, the debt, as compared to the equity financing. The second question, why we go for the financial risk management? That is, a lot of risks are there when we talk about the FRM, but I would like to elaborate only 3 because we have a time constraint too. The first one is the commodity price risk, the second is interest rate risk, and the currency exchange rate risk. Commodity price risk is that the risk or the threat of losing money when the commodity price fluctuates. The second is the interest rate risk, which is the risk of losing money when the interest rates goes up or down. The third one is currency exchange rate risk. When the currencies go up or down, then there is the risk, and there is a possibility that the person who is investing in might be losing. The third question is how to manage the financial risks. To answer this, I have used the same risks, and then I have described 3 major techniques, 3 major tools which are used to mitigate the risk. The first one is, for commodity prices, we use hedging. For exchange rate risk, we use normally the forward contracts, we use the futures, options, and swaps. Then there's interest rate risk, we use the call provision normally. So, telling you this is not all inclusive or all, this is not an exhaustive list. So there might be possibility that there are a lot of risks apart from this. So this is only the 3 main categories. Now I told you when I talk about who, I'll talk about you, and you are here, right? Over there. The management accountants. last time when I was presenting, I thought a word when I was presenting here, I had a word in my head, and that was the corporate doctors. And I thought that I could use this word to describe the people, to describe the students of my institution. So I designate you. You are still students, but I designate you as the future corporate doctors of this economy. What role can you play as a risk manager? Well, you have the diversified knowledge, you have the requisite information, you all understand what is risk, you all understand how risk can be identified, what are the different uses of risk identification, how can you measure the risk, and how can you mitigate the risk, what are the tools and techniques which can be used to mitigate the risk. So, the point I prepared this slide is to make you understand and to reach you that you can play a vital role in the risk mitigation process of any organization anywhere in the world. Now, considering the time, I think that I have reached the end, and I shall end my presentation with a very beautiful line that I learned when I was in stage 2. This is written in the book. This is very wonderful line that I love to tell you here. This goes like, if you always do what you've always done. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always done. If your life is ever going to improve, you will have to take RISK, the same four-letter dirty word, the risk. So the point is that you have to take risk. If there is no risk, there is no return. You have to take risk no matter what you do. In finance, in everywhere in the world, we have to undertake the risk. If you do not go for the risk, then you have to take a rest, have a cup of coffee in your bed, and there is no profit for you. So this is all from my side, and I thank you for lending your attention, the precious time. Now the forum is open for you if you have any questions. And I know that, and if I know that the answer to that question, I should love to answer that.
If you want to ask questions, then raise your hand.
Mr. Abdul, would you please give what is the difference between risk and uncertainty?
I do not understand.
What is the difference between risk and uncertainty?
Okay.
You get that?
I understand that. Look, uncertainty and risk, they are very close to each other. When there is risk, it means that there is uncertainty, because the word risk comes from the word uncertainty. Because risk is there when you are uncertain of anything. I told you that risk exists whenever the actual outcome is different from your expected outcome. When you are projecting something, you cannot foresee very clearly what's going to happen. You might go up to the expected level, you might go down, you might earn more, you might lose. So there can be any situation. You are uncertain at that point. The point I want to make is that you are uncertain. When you are uncertain, you are taking risk. I think that you understand my point.
Well, any other questions? We have time to ask another question. Sir, Asim Chaudhary.
I'd like to have your attention toward the point you were talking about, that we target the 10%. We can go 10% up or 10% down.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 10% down is a risk. But 10% up, you are not talking about the opportunity actually. That's you are talking about the access or the potential you are having there. You may get the potential or the opportunity there. So don't you are mixing the risk with the opportunity or that sort of thing?
Sir, actually the point I say this definition is that when I learned the dictionary meaning of the word risk, it was like very clear that you are going to lose something. The dictionary version like Oxford and anything like that. But when I came to finance and the risk management, like the business perspective, I came to understand that the risk is the variability around some expected value. Expected value is the benchmark, and we have to compare our actual outcome with that. The actual outcome might go up and down the expected value. This is If that is the variability, then I think it's risk.
But that's
By definition.
By definition that can be, but in general, when we are talking about the things in the finance module,
Yes, sir.
it should be termed as an opportunity, or it should be termed as the potential that we can have
Yes,
by
sir.
putting in the efforts. That shouldn't be disclosed, in my opinion. That's
Yes, sir,
my
you're
opinion.
right, but-
I am not imposing on you.
Right,
That
sir.
can be a contradiction.
Yes, sir. But by definition, I think I'm right.
You are.